welcome back to another Outdoor Philosophy. Well, today we're going to continue our discussion of Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And we are on to chapter 5 today, and we're talking about self-control. My apologies for the wind if you can hear that. At least it's not the lawnmower. All right. So, of course, this begins, this falls in, if you remember back to chapter 2, we kind of had a game plan, and this is the portion under self-regulation. And under self-regulation, he titles this chapter Self-Control. And really, this is kind of an emotional response. You get out there, you get angry. Well, what are we seeing on a lot of reality TV shows and other things like that? We're seeing people run out and act on these outbursts of anger that are just, it makes us all look and go, ugh. Okay, but we're getting worse and worse. We're getting more and more and more of these outbursts of anger. And so this is what this is talking about. Self-control is being able to, you're not hiding and burying your feelings. That's another issue. But to understand your feelings and emotions and how to respond properly to them. There is a time, to quote from Ecclesiastes, a time to laugh and a time to cry. There's, you know, a time to live, a time to die, a time to search, a time to give up for lust. There's a time for everything. There's a time that you jump out on your reactions, and there's a time you just kind of bite your tongue, but you just can't suppress your emotions. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. So as we get in here, of course, they kind of talk about when emotions boil over. You know, a few anecdotal stories of people who did stupid things because they were mad. I think they covered Mike Tyson's issue here. You know, that one bite, whatever, cost him $3 million. Of course, that's tame according to what's happening a lot of times now. And of course, they do a lot of other discussion here about, you know, just say no to neurons. Like, a lot of this you can't always control. We hope that you can. We have anger management classes. If you get out there and punch somebody and you have no other previous criminal whatever, they might say, oh, you need to go to anger management classes. How much of this is inborn and how much of this can we change? I don't know. Obviously, there's some steps that we can do to get better at it. Hopefully, we mature over time. It's really hard to tell, though. It really is hard to tell. So, of course, they talk about the marshmallow study, which, if I remember correctly, the gentleman behind this marshmallow study just passed away recently, if I remember correctly. But of course, the famous marshmallow study, they took like preschoolers, whatever. They said, you can eat this marshmallow now, or you can wait. And if you wait, when we come back into the room a few minutes later, you can have 2 instead. And then they followed all these kids throughout the rest of their life. And supposedly, the kids that ate the marshmallow now, they all end up being, you know, the deadbeats, the drunks, the whatevers, you know, because this is a book that's pushing these cool ideas. And then those people who waited went on to be the bosses, the heads, the state, the highly successful people, had a lot of goals, had a lot of whatevers. And that's kind of the principle behind the marshmallow test. Now, of course, they're breaking all of these down into several sections. This one has, I think, 4 of those. So the 4 of them that they have are self-control, is managing disruptive emotions and impulses effectively, trustworthiness, displaying honesty and integrity, which is certainly part of self-control. Sometimes it's difficult to do the right thing. Conscientiousness. This is one a lot of kids struggle with. A lot of people are like, oh, why is my kid not doing well in school? Because he doesn't have conscientiousness. That's why. So conscientiousness is the dependability and responsibility in fulfilling obligations. We have adaptability, which is flexibility in handling change and challenges. Of course, flexibility is great. You know, bless are the flexible, they never get bent out of shape, right? And then, of course, the innovative, being open to novel ideas, approaches, and new information. So the chapters all break down. I think they have 3 of these. I think they combined adaptability, innovation, trustworthiness, and conscientiousness together. And so the first one is self-control. Okay, so the first one of these is self-control, keeping disruptive emotions and impulses in check. So people with self-control, they can manage their impulsive feelings and distressing emotions well. Again, this doesn't mean that you're angry and you're just suppressing it. If you're always walking around suppressing your anger, it's going to come out in health problems. It raises cortisol levels. That causes stress in the body. It causes a lot of issues. And that in of itself is a bad thing. So you don't want to suppress your feelings, whether anger or any other feelings. So likewise, you don't want to suppress feelings of love, feelings of friendship, feelings of appreciation. You don't want to suppress all these emotions. And this is one thing that a lot of people lacking emotional competencies will do is they just suppress it all. And of course, that leads to what they might call IED, right? Intermittent explosive disorder is what they're trying to diagnose all these kids with that go out and engage in school shootings. But somebody with this emotional competency, you kind of know who to share your feelings with and what circumstances to share your feelings, when to be quiet, when to just write them down, but you understand and express your feelings in an appropriate way. Okay, they stay composed, positive, and unflappable in trying moments. So your emotions don't tear you down. They don't rip you into pieces. Maybe you're in some type of a confrontation of some form or another. The people who are best in control of their emotional responses tend to be the people who have the best interaction with police officers, for example. Okay, you go out and have an interaction with a police officer. If you can control your emotions, answer yes sir or no sir, walk through, chances are you're going to be in a lot better place than if you're just go up there with an attitude because you think that you're the man and he thinks he's the man, and now you got two people with personality conflict fighting it out, and one of them has authority of the law. That will not turn out well. Okay, but you can stay composed even in trying moments, and then thinking clearly and staying focused under pressure. Of course, this deals a lot with when 15 things hit you all at once, to be able to stop, refocus, and make the best decision for right now, for this point in time. That's what we're talking about here. Okay, so then the next one is trustworthiness and conscientiousness. So they combine these together, which is maintaining integrity and taking responsibility for your performance. Again, as we mentioned before, first let's look at trustworthiness, then we'll look at conscientiousness. So a trustworthy person acts ethically and are above reproach. This is something that is really missing in our modern society, where we don't have a lot of morality and ethics. And the funniest thing is, I was in grad school at the time they made everybody start taking bioethics courses. Now any major you have to take some ethics course. It's funny that now ethics courses are all over the place, and we can't agree, A, whose ethics are right, or B, we can't figure out how to live with ethics or morality. And this is a discussion for another day, but it's definitely a telling thing. But the reason this shows up under self-control is sometimes it takes a lot to do the right thing. Because sometimes doing the right thing means you're going to lose out. You could lose a job over having the right thing. I talked about, I think the last time, about my cousin who lost a job because he's trustworthy and he wasn't about to lie or cheat. And so they wanted somebody in that position who would be willing to lie or cheat, and he said he wouldn't do that. So that was it. All right. Building trust through their reliability and authenticity. So these are people who build trust based upon that. And then admit their own mistakes and confront unethical actions in others. Now, this is, again, this entire statement is where I'm really thinking that books like this, I don't think they have a lot to do with regular corporate America, because there's a whole lot more sliminess, cutthroatness, and all sorts of other issues in the business community than we would like to believe. And then they take tough, principled stands even if they're unpopular. Again, not as common as we'd like it to be. It would be great if this is how companies work, but more often than not, we find that they can railroad people and it doesn't really matter. They figure that out. And again, this book is 20 years old. 20 years ago, this might have been a better situation, but now we're just a case where it's just like, screw the customer. As long as we can extract his money, we don't care. Because that's how a lot of these companies are coming off. That's how Amazon at times comes off. Of course, they treat their customers a lot better. Apple comes off this way. Microsoft comes off this way. Google comes off this way. A lot of these companies come off this way. And so, and these are the ones, there might be a lot of good ethical ones in the background, but frankly, they're harder to find. Maybe they're harder to find because they're just not in the news. That's also a possibility we have to consider. All right, now let's look at conscientiousness, because this is that thing that how able are you to do the things you need to do? A conscientious person knows the tasks, prioritizes the tasks, set in a plan, a motion, and does it. And this is why I brought up, a lot of your school kids, we just don't have conscientiousness in America in the school systems in a lot of places, and maybe a lot of other places as well. They're just not getting their work done because they're not conscientious about the things that they need to do. So a conscientious person meets commitments and keeps their promises. Okay, this is why I'm always early for things, man. I don't want to show up late. If I'm going to be even a minute late starting a stream, I tell people, hey, I'm going to be a minute or two late, you got to meet those goals. You got to meet the deadlines, whether that's a business meeting, whether that's just something you're doing for yourself. You got to have that integrity to meet those goals and keep the promises. A person who's conscientious holds themselves accountable in meeting their objectives. Goal-driven people, having a goal, knowing what you need to do, and setting yourself accountable to do that. And this is the kind of thing, when I started putting a paper log in so I can track how many hours I'm working in any given week, my income went up about 20%. Because I was able to keep myself accountable through that log. It was amazing what happened. All right. And of course, a conscientious person is organized and careful. It goes back to that same thing. I'm very organized. That's actually how I get as much stuff as I get done, because I don't have to figure out where I'm at in each process. I'm fairly organized in how everything is put together and works. So that's conscientiousness. And of course, the last group is the innovation and adaptability. This is being open to novel ideas and approaches and being flexible in responding to change. All right, so for innovation, innovative people, and this is one I'm not as good at. I'm not as big of an innovator. I'm more technical, I'm less creative as a reality. And understanding that is good, because this is an area I'm not as good at. Seek out fresh ideas from a variety of sources. Entertain original solutions to problems, so figuring out the best original solutions, and then generating new ideas. Okay, taking fresh perspectives and risks in their thinking. I can take a little bit more risk and perspective. That's probably where I'm at. I'm not particularly good at generating new ideas, so I can't really comment a whole lot more on these. They're just not areas of strength to me. Adaptability. For adaptability, though, this is something I'm pretty good at. And again, this deals with the flexible. Adaptability, flexibility, you know, blessed are the flexible. They never get bent out of shape. So they can smoothly handle multiple demands, shifting priorities, and rapid change. Can you make a moment to change the course or the direction where you want to go? That's ultimately the question you want to ask with that. Adapt their responses to tactics to fit the circumstances. Can you go into something with a goal and with a plan, realize that that's not going to plan out, and then make some shifts and adjustments in order to get a good result no matter what? Rather than just being rigid and focused on that one objective that you probably aren't going to get done at this point in time, it's better if you stop, refocus, regroup, and make a change course correction midway through. And then number 3, are they flexible in how they see events? Are you flexible? So that is your adaptability issue. So those all fall under the category of self-control. When you figure out the self-control aspect, then you'll probably already be a good step ahead of anybody else. So that's kind of what I want to talk about on today's Working with Emotional Intelligence. So thanks for coming along on this outdoor philosophy, and have a look at the links in the description down below. So have yourself a wonderful one, and we will see you later.